Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our first ever Social Edge customer panel. We're really excited to have you guys on here and to really have an open conversation about use cases. And we definitely want you to be able to get a lot out of our presentations from our awesome community managers. We have Dina Vekaria from Pearson and Dori Gray from Medidata that are going to be showing you really awesome use cases, places that they've built out in their communities that are super innovative, and being able to show different best practices based on their experiences. And one of the things that we really want to facilitate during this webinar, this panel, is a lot of open floor Q&A. We encourage you to participate. One of the things that you'll notice is that you have the opportunity to submit text questions to our presenters as they're going through. So there is a questions section in the pane of your control panel. So you can send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll be collecting these, and then at the end of the presentations, there will be a Q&A session, so we can go through those then. And also, at the Q&A session at the end, you can come off mute and ask your questions as well. So you can ask questions throughout, and then there will be a dedicated portion toward the end to answer any questions that you have or to continue discussion on any of the topics that both Dori and Dina will be discussing today. Just to give you a little background, both Dina and Dori have years of experience as community managers, again, both at Pearson and Medidata respectively. They have been managing their communities for years. They know the ins and outs. And I think you're going to be really, really excited about some of the great examples that they're going to be showing off today. So really want to dive right in and let them show you the good stuff. So I will start by passing the presenter mode over to Dina here, and we'll get started.
Thank you. Okay, I am just sharing my screen, so if Amara can tell me whether you can see that all okay, that'd be wonderful.
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome, so I'm going to go into presentation mode. Okay, cool. So before we get into the Pearson use cases for our communities, I want to just tell you a little bit about Pearson and our Oreo/Jive community, which is called NEO. So today we're the world's leading learning company, but around 8 years ago when we implemented our community at NEO, we were a mix of mergers and acquisitions, and we needed something like NEO to be able to work as one single community. So NEO was introduced to resolve a couple of different problems. We needed to create a one Pearson community. We needed to have a corporate directory, and we needed to break down silos, all of which I'm sure is not news to any of you on this call because we're all in that same boat there. So we all know that community is about people connecting. It's about establishing and maintaining the relationships. It's about adding value to each other's lives and our work. But building a community takes time and commitment, and you need a clear strategy to grow that community. So through community building, you're able to add value to the overall customer experience. You can turn your customers, or in most cases, for some of you on this call, your colleagues, into brand advocates for your business. So on this slide, I've included 3 questions we ask our colleagues to think about. In addition to these questions, we also provide the top 3 things to consider when you're planning a successful community within our community, which is NEO. So the first thing we ask people to think about is fewer communities. Does a community already exist that covers the team or topic that you're thinking of creating content for? Can you join that community instead of creating another one and having double? Have a clear and content planning strategy. So keep the content consistent and current. Lets people know that your community has the best information for that topic. I'm going to go into content planning on the next slide. And then finally, simple communications. Clear, concise communications are instrumental in helping people get what they need efficiently. So having something clear in mind when you're building a community, that's key. So on the next slide, we have content plan and keeping things fresh. Now, the content strategy for your community in terms of best practice is far more important than having your community look a certain way, or having a fancy homepage for your community might be convenient and beautiful because it's a signpost to content, but if no one visits your community looking for that good content, then the homepage is kind of useless. So having good content which is well organized ensures that people can find what they need. On the next slide, this is kind of a rough content calendar. So we're actually in the middle of creating for our Pearson advocates community that we have. And I'm actually going to demo this community a couple of slides down. But we have broken our content calendar down by weekly and monthly activity. So as you can see, the calendar helps us forward plan. So it helps you bank your content as well. So you're not scrambling each week or each month for fresh content. You're always going to have things teed up and prepared in advance of when you need to post it. So you're kind of forward planning there, which is always really, really helpful. We use discussions as a way to quickly and easily update the community or to draw them in. So for example, we ask our community a question of the week, or we'll share a piece of content, and at the same time every week, so they know when they're going to get it. So you're setting that expectation that the question of the week or whatever it is going to be asked at the same time every week, and your community members will know to look for it in their activity stream and engage with your content. Another idea that we've done at Pearson is we've had a community jam session. So think of this as like a virtual brainstorming sharing session where no one actually has to leave their desk. So what we did was a very global wide thing, but what the use case that I'm going to show you is a little bit more kind of smaller. So what you could do is schedule 30 minutes on everyone's calendar, or everyone who'd like to participate, have a theme, have about 5 to 10 questions prepared ahead of time, and you're going to act as the facilitator for this virtual jam session. And at the scheduled start time, you can microblog the first question with your community, give them some time to answer, and then you post your next question, and you keep going until your 30 minutes are up. And what you're trying to do is talk about a particular theme or topic within your community, and this keeps things quite fresh and quite current, because you're constantly engaging with the people that is in your community. To make sure you have interaction during your first jam, which is important if you're going to do future ones, is recruit some people that are in your community ahead of time to participate and encourage participation with the other folks in your group. The jams is not going to only get people immersed in the community and the topic area, but it's going to help them to interact with people that they may not have interacted with beforehand. So this is also a great way to network within the communities that you have as well. It's going to help them see the value of interacting with other members. And in the end, what gets people coming back to the community is value, right? Like, that's why you go to your community, is to get something from it, to learn something from it. So content should be interesting and relevant to people's work or interests, and work with other colleagues across your business to help create that content for that community. Up next, we have setting goals and expectations. So, if you're willing to spend the time executing the following activities, this is going to work really well. So as I mentioned, scheduling content, initiating activity, arranging training for your community, which is what we've gone through in terms of doing discussions, doing jams, moderation. So ensure that when you receive questions and you get questions in your discussions, that they are being moderated in case it doesn't really comply with the tone of voice within that group. Post information, expand your community, so attract both new members and content contributions, which is going to help when you're setting your goals and expectations for your group. Up next, we've got purposeful posting and repurposing content. So this side is pretty self-explanatory. It's not always about racking your brain thinking of what new content you need to think up, because how many times have we sat there when we're building a community thinking, what can we put up? What can we put up that's consistent, right? So what's going on around the business that's important to know or relevant for the community that you're managing. So here we have Milena. She is our SVP for Artificial Intelligence Product and Solutions at Pearson. So this article was in our annual report. Now here is the version that we created in our community as a document. So what we're doing now is that we've created a document that can further discuss what Milena talks about in the annual report. We can actually engage with our people, because once you've read the report, that's it, right? Where's the discussion? Where's the engagement and the collaboration happening? Well, that happens in our community by turning the report into an actual document. So we repurposed what's actually out there, and we're going to get more bang for our buck on what Pearson already produces. So we don't have to sit there and think about what stuff that we have to create. It's already done for you. You're just repurposing it. Then we have a feedback loop. Now, feedback is so super important, because if you don't know what your community needs and wants, then it's really not gonna work, right? So create a survey within your community and surface it on the homepage of your community. Use the email capability in the announcements section to let them all know that the survey is open for a week or so, whatever it is, and you're looking for feedback on what they'd like to see in the community, what's going to bring those folks more value. So surveying is a great way to find out what people need. Then we have constant engagement. So, in our community, we have so many people that create communities. They do a big launch, and then there's nothing for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, because they haven't really thought about the goals and expectations of the community. They haven't really thought about the content plan and thinking about what this group is for. So, I have a few good habits that we do that I'd like to share with you. So, does anything need a response in your community? How do you keep engaging? So don't just post and bail, right? So you post and engage. When you're posting content, if it needs a response, write a response. You don't have to be the person responding, but if you know someone who's an expert in that area, mention that person and they will respond. Did somebody contribute a particularly interesting piece of content? Be sure to like it and leave a comment, because the last thing anyone wants is when you post something, which is quite scary for people who don't do this often, that they get no engagement with it. Nobody likes their post, nobody comments on it. So encourage people to keep posting and actually be an integral part of that community. Set an example by contributing something yourself at least once a week. This is where your content plan is going to come in hand. It can be as simple as sharing an interesting article through a status update explaining why the content could be of interest to the rest of the community. Also, if you're doing other work as well as doing community management, because let's be honest, we all kind of double hat, triple hat here these days. We're not just doing the one thing. Recruit another community owner who can cover for you when you're away, or work with you to be able to create that content. So there's a couple of you doing it, not just the one. Recruit a few evangelists, a few advocates, get their commitment to contribute at least once a week or once a month, whatever works for them. A community where one person does all of the talking isn't much of a community. No matter how amazing you guys are, you have to be able to have those conversations. So it can't just be the one person posting all the time. Encourage people to keep posting. And finally, a really good habit is continuously checking the reports, the community manager reports, or the reporting analytics within your community, just because it helps you identify your frequent users and the types of activities and content that they favor. Now, unfortunately, we all know that the reporting out of the box is not, like Google Analytics is nothing intense like that, but it at least gives you an idea to kind of know where your community is at and what they're liking, what they're not viewing, and things like that. So hopefully it helps guide you in terms of what you post. So now I'm going to go into a bit of demo mode, because I would like to share with you some groups that we have on Neo that are doing exactly that. So we have the first group, which is called Welcome to Pearson. Now, this is a group that we have for, obviously, people who join Pearson for the first time, and they need to know about these key different things. And what you'll notice here is it's very clean, very simple. We try to keep it. And we have these icons that can help people get to where they need to get to really quickly, because this is what we deem really important for folks to be able to look at and see when they first come to when they first join our company. Then we have different pages across the top, where each one has information about what they need to know. And as you can see, we use a range of different tiles here, some of which are social edge, of course, the blog post and the navigation of places. When you're new to Pearson, you might go to this tab and you'll see some more really great tiles here, sharing what we want people to know. The next group that we have that I want to share with you is our Pearson Advocates Global Hub. So this is the one that I mentioned earlier on in a couple of slides ago. So what we have here is actually we have the latest activity tile, which is the new tile offered by Social Edge, which is pretty cool because it's very, very easy to look at, easy to reply to. You can easily like things and see things there as well. So we really enjoy this new tile just because it's nice to look at. Especially when you've got a lot of content, and we do have quite a lot of content coming up in our Advocates Hub. Then we have, do we have anything in here that's of interest? Oh, just a blog tile in here, sharing things that are going on. We also have the People of Pearson, which is the pop vlogs that I create every month. And what we do have here is the new video tile, where we have all the vlogs. Well, we have the last kind of 6 or 7, I think, and then you can kind of scroll through and play and see the others. And then that's our Advocates Hub with a few cool tiles there. And then we have the innovation. So let me just grab that, and I think it was in global programs. Here we go. So when you go to the Innovation Hub, we use, again, a range of tiles, but here we've got the really cool mosaic tile that Social Edge provide, because it's a really nice way to see different articles, and you know, when you hover over it, it's pretty cool because it highlights it, so you can easily grab what you need when you're on that group as well. So these are the we've got another one here as well. So these tiles, you know, they help us be able to signpost to content. You know, when we're building our communities, we want to be able to have engaging homepages as well as engaging content, right? Like I said before, content is king here, because no one's going to come to your group if you don't have great content. But when you have great content, you want equally great looking homepages where you can actually easily signpost to content and have people really easily click to things that they need when they need it. So I'm going to go back into presentation mode and then head on to my last slide, which is around managing communities. Now, I tend to use these dare to be's quite a lot because I really do believe in them. You know, I think daring to be authentic, you know, always being yourself when you're in your communities. I mean, this is all basic stuff for, you know, community managers. This is stuff that we do day in, day out, but it's always nice to have a helpful reminder about these things, because when you get so trudged down in the day-to-day work, you forget all of these things. So it's a nice helpful reminder for you. So dare to be authentic, you know, always be yourself, because your real self should always shine through when you're speaking to people in your community. Dare to be bold. Try new things, see how it works. Never be afraid to shake things up, unless your community is not that way inclined. Get to know them before you dare to be bold with them, because sometimes it depends on the community and it depends on the folks that are in that community. You might have a great community that who are really go-getters and really quite fun and want to keep it that way, but there are some communities that don't do that. So once you get to know them, you can try and dare to be bold with them if that allows it. Dare to be open and transparent. So transparency, as we all know on this call, is key to building trust in the community, in your community. So being open and transparent is going to ensure mutual respect for one another and build the trust in the community. So when members feel like they're posting something, their voice is being heard and respected. And this is when I dare to be open and transparent. This is one for me where when you sometimes in your community have those negative Nellies who like to bring people down, this is where my openness and my transparency comes in full play, because in my communities, I'm not going to allow anyone to bring anyone down. So when I see a hint of negativity, the moderation queen comes out from me, and I'm all over that, because I don't want that person posting to never post again because somebody's not been very nice to them. So, you know, this is where you need to be, you know, we all need to be open and transparent and moderate our community to a point where we welcome comments and we welcome content and we respect each other. And then finally, dare to fail fast and improve. not every piece of content or post or idea you're going to have is going to work for your particular community. It might for some communities, it might not for you, and that's okay, right? Fail fast, draw a line under it, and you move on. We've had so many things that we've introduced into our advocate community that didn't get views, didn't get the right kind of engagement, barely anything. So we scrapped it and we thought of another idea. You know, it's okay to say something didn't work and own up to it and be like, okay, let's move on from that. So failing fast and constantly improving what you do and what you put out is something that I really do believe in. So this takes me to the end of my presentation. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Amara, if I can. Trying to find the stop sharing button. There we go.
Thank you so much, Dina. So again, feel free to ask questions, in the chat. We're going to address all of these questions after Dori's presentation once we have the Q&A. But now I will pass the sharing over to Dori.
Okay. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Dory Gray and I am the community manager at Medidata Solutions. I started here 4 years ago on a team of 4 people. We were leading a community of 1,400 employees. Over this time, things changed as they do, and now we have 2,800 employees in our community, and I am currently a team of 1. So before I was here, I did employee communications at Verizon, and one of my projects was managing a single drive space, just one space in the community for 40,000 employees. And I was able to learn there from 2 really amazing community managers, Edward Ford and Megan Halasek. And thanks to their guidance and just loving what I was doing and loving managing that space and answering all the questions and being the one with all the answers, I came over to Medidata to make being a community manager my full-time job. So I'm going to talk a lot about how we use the social edge tiles and some other tools to build better use cases for our community and show you a few of my favorite examples of things that we are currently doing here. And this is just a little overview of the 6 different things I hope I have time to show you today, things that we do, including consistent app support spaces, Medidata Essentials, where employees can learn everything they need to know about working here, our event hub, which is a one-stop shop for all official corporate events, our employee podcast that I host, and we have a group actually dedicated to that. A good example of a department collaboration group that my brand new intern is working on, and our homepage mosaic and what we have planned for a big takeover for an event next week. So I will just get started. I'm going to start with Medidata Essentials. So this is the space I was mentioning. It is an answer to a problem that our human resources team had. And that problem was people were coming to them with questions about everything, and not all those questions had anything to do with human resources. So they wanted to create a space where employees can find answers to pretty much everything that they're constantly being asked. What I really love about this space is that it stands out because it's so clearly branded and it looks professional, and there are absolutely no coding skills or HTML skills necessary. I would say 2-3 years ago, we were constantly working with Social Edge and internal departments to get nice HTML, and then it was impossible for anyone to know how to update it. So this is a really nice way to get spaces that look nice, and people they respond so well to this, they don't even realize that the biggest benefit is just how easy it is to use. And this space is actually going to be a base for spin-offs, such as a manager essential space and an acquisition essential space, because it was just announced last week that my company is entered into agreement to be acquired. So what I love about this space, I'm going to save the best for last. The navigation tile is a really great way to just display a list, and it looks so much nicer, and it looks much more professional and cleaner than anything else, and it's so easy to add those little icons. And this is a little section designed on how to use our community, which is called Medidata Express. There's a search tile. So it makes it really easy to search for whatever you need. I have this set to search our entire community because the whole point of this is to get answers from anywhere. And this is the place grid tile, and we're just using it to show one space. It's actually called Question Express, and that's where employees go to ask questions about anything and everything if they don't know the right place to ask it, or if there are, if it spans different departments or it doesn't fit into one specific place. And then we're also using the blog tile just to show our current most important headlines. But my favorite example, and this has more social edge tiles than any other space we have, but this is my favorite example of how to use an accordion really well. And all the basic information that people absolutely need to know if they're going to work here is front and center. There's also the other nice to haves, other things that they'll eventually want to learn about, but they don't need right away. Key contacts, HR is constantly being asked for email addresses, so now people can come here and find out exactly how to contact each department. And then different FAQs, and this is always added to based on what employees are asking for. So, and I love that I had no real part in creating this. Someone in HR who has a nice eye for design did this all on her own and did a really, really amazing job and set a really good example that we're going to start duplicating in other places. So the next example I want to talk about is corporate apps. So this is just a very plain space, but it has a link to every single corporate app space that we have in our community. And we did a big project last year where we took all of these corporate app spaces and we made them have the same look and feel, made them feel like you were in the same place no matter where you were, and you can always find what you're looking for. So here's an example of Concur, which is one of the tools we use for travel arrangements. And all corporate app spaces will have a hero tile that looks very similar. We have 3 different styles. I'll show you all 3. And every single hero tile will always have a link to open a ticket or get support and a link to go right to that app. Whatever else is in there depends on what the app is, but it will always have those 2. So no matter what app you need support on, you know exactly what you're looking for when you're in a corporate app space. The other feature that every corporate app space has is this document viewer and these questions. And people can easily see, what is this tool? Where do I learn to use it? Where can I use it? What training do I need? And so on. So you can see we have 3 different styles. This is the darker blue style, and it's the same thing for Salesforce. Get support, go to the app, how to use it. And then another example is our orange one, and those are the 3 colors that we have just to mix it up a little bit, but the spaces are always really similar to each other. And whatever shows up on the right or underneath, that really depends on who owns the app and how involved they want to be. But we usually always have answered questions and unanswered questions and a place to ask your question. And what I really love about these is that people just know what to expect and they know how to get the information they need about apps. And before that, it was a mess and no one knew how to do anything and everything was just all over the place. Next example I want to talk about is our event hub. And this is one of my all-time favorite spaces. And this was also created because we had a problem a little over a year ago where employees didn't know what was going on. And we do a lot of really great corporate events in Medidata. And no one knew when they were happening or what they were and what department was offering them. So we worked with Social Edge to create this event hub. This is the mosaic tile. And I really like this one a lot because it just fits in really well with the whole look and feel of the page. And every single Friday, I have a reminder on my calendar to just come in here and make sure that these featured events up here are not outdated. The most exciting thing about this space is this customized events tile. So we work with a vendor out in India, and they helped create the functionality, and we work with Social Edge as well to create the design and the look and feel of this tile to make it fit in with the rest of the space. And what's really amazing about this is that if the event creator uses the correct tagging convention and they use the correct event type, you can filter by any type of event and by any location. So if you just want to see what's going on in EMEA for volunteer activities, it's really easy to see the options that you have, and then clicking Learn More will just open up the actual event content type itself. We also have this pulling onto our homepage in a tile, so employees have that information there, but it's a lot easier to use and a lot easier to filter when they come in here. Next example I want to talk about is my podcast. This is a little side project. I just had an idea one day that I want to start a podcast. I actually think it started from a discussion that happened in the Jive community where people were talking about audio content types, and I said, oh, that's a really great idea if that existed. And it doesn't exist, but this space is, I think, the next best thing that we can do to having that. And I'm really proud of how easy it is for employees to find episodes thanks to the tiles available to us. So anyone that comes here, they can always access easily the intro episode to learn what exactly this is and why I'm doing it. The most recent episode will always be on top, and there's also an idea content for people to suggest a guest, and people can vote on that. Full episode list on the side, and then I use the video tile right here. These are not in order. These are just some of the most popular episodes. Glenn DeVries is our president, so that's definitely one that people want to listen to most because I interviewed him. And I really like that you can also see the other episodes here, as well as the pictures that I choose to include with them. Each video, it's not actually a video. I mean, it is, but it's audio with a picture. So I think the pictures in a lot of cases really pull people in as well, and this tile makes it really easy for people to see that, and so just read more about what's happening in each episode. Next example is our brand new marketing idea factory. I joined the marketing department about 4 months ago, and I was lucky enough to get an intern this year. And by her second day at Medidata, she was already better at social edge tiles than I am. So one of her projects is to help solve a big problem we have in marketing, which is reply all emails. I was shocked when I joined marketing. Anytime anything happens, if someone gets promoted, if someone has a birthday, if there's food on the table, one person will send an email to everyone, and then every single person in the whole department will reply all, everyone, right up to the chief marketing officer. And it drove me crazy, and no one else complained about it. And I said, I don't know if other people are bothered by this, but we have to start bringing these conversations into our community. There's so much great stuff happening here, and it's not in one place, and I also don't want to get spammed by all these emails. So that's what we're working on together. I set up something initially, and then my intern came over and made it a lot better. One thing that she did that I really was impressed with, so I set up the regular out-of-the-box categories tile, and then even though it's a little more manual to keep updated, she came in and she used the accordion tile. And it's just so much nicer this way to see the categories. And they link to the same categories, but it's just a much nicer view that will make you want to click on those categories and see what's going on. And what we did to choose these categories was really take what are the topics of all these reply alls and put them into categories. So our next big challenge is actually getting people using this. So we started getting people sharing some photos in here. My intern helped create this quest. 1,000 points is probably too much if you're listening, Danielle. But hopefully this will help our whole department that doesn't really use our community that much to start learning how to use it better, as well as all of our events and other information. We also have an idea section in here where we had, I know that there is also a social edge idea tile, but we, before that, had created our own with that vendor in India that I mentioned, and employees can vote right in that tile. So we like to use that as well. So hopefully people start using this more. I never would have thought to do all of this on my own. So this is really great to have another person. And then the last thing I want to mention is our homepage is something exciting that we're doing. So one other thing you might have noticed, our logo is rainbow. Social Edge helped us create that as well for Pride, and I just really, really love it a lot, and it's gotten really great feedback from people. But this is our homepage mosaic, and It always has this structure just because I'm not great at visualizing how to change it, but employees always know that the most important announcement will be right there. I really love using the categories to label each type. And one thing that we're doing is we're having our 20th anniversary next week, and it's a huge deal. Our company is 20 years old. We are going all out. So we're putting a wallpaper behind our homepage. But the other big thing we're doing is we're taking over this mosaic. And we are going to have one large image that it'll look just like this. And it's going to be chopped up to allow us to have one image and a bunch of different stories going to anything that happened over the last 20 years. So all different blog posts and content and exciting news. Our president's first blog post, he used to do a whiteboard series, some other fun content from years past, and it will be there all week in this big takeover image. I'm really excited to show everyone what it looks like once it's done. And we're going to be chopping this up. We had a choice of how many stories we actually wanted to link to, and I think we're going to go with 6. But that's just a really great use case on how to take something that people look at every day and maybe they start to even ignore it and make it really exciting and keep this news in everyone's mind. Because not everyone has time to devote to creating a new story every single day for the 20th anniversary, but everyone will come in and be reminded every single day when they see that the homepage was completely taken over. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Dory. That was awesome. Okay, I will take the presenter back. All right, so what we will do now is we're just going to go through some of the questions that were asked in the chat, and then we can also open this up so that people can ask, other questions as well. So I'm just going to go through the ones that were asked. So this one is for Dina. In new to Pearson, are you using social edge tiles, and which ones?
Yeah, so we're using the hero tile, we're using the search tile, we are using the blog tile. Let me go into here and share, and then I can do this bit. Here we go. So this is the hero, this is the places, this is the search, the third one on the bottom, and then in about Pearson we have got, this is just a document viewer, I think. Place here again, blog on the side again. Let me just check the other two if there's anything different. I think this is the hero, yeah. This is the search, and this one I'm not sure, but I can check.
Navigation.
Looks navigation. Like yeah. I think it is as well, yeah. So yes, that's the one. Navigation, and then finally, I'm helping someone new. This is just the document, and then navigation again.
Thank you. Yeah, navigation and accordion are similar functionality-wise, but navigation allows you to display all of the links in different sections instead of accordion, which shows them collapsed. So just a little bit different. Awesome. All right, so another question here. How important is executive engagement in your community? Are your execs active, or are you mostly ghost posting for them? Great question.
I can talk about it in my community. It's a big mix. It really depends on the executive. The president of our company is really great about posting. I mentioned he did a whiteboard series. He actually stopped for a while, but then he recently started again. He'll post blogs and videos, and he'll leave comments and engage with people. One of our spaces I didn't show is an anniversary space, and we have a bot that spoofs every employee and posts in their name on the day of their anniversary. So it'll say, Dory Gray celebrated 4 years at Medidata today, and then people come in and congratulate you. So when it did it for our president, it wasn't really his anniversary at the company. It was the anniversary of the first HR system, and it led to this really great discussion that he was so actively involved in. I just did an interview yesterday for my podcast with the EVP of our professional services organization. His name is Dan Shannon, and he blogs his whole department's promotions, which is amazing. And he also blogs other cultural events happening at Medidata. So we have some execs that are extremely involved in, that executive Dan Shannon, his two departments are professional services and customer success. Their spaces are the most highly trafficked, highly used, highly engaged spaces by far. Like, our metrics are out of the water for his department spaces. And then the other executives that don't use it as much, that can be a lot harder. And that's something that I'm always working on. And I have a new corporate communications person here who's really interested in helping with that as well. But it definitely shows in our community the executives that are engaged, how their teams are using it.
I think the only thing that I'll add to that is, much like Dory, we are a mix as well, but what we have implemented in the last, I think it's 2 months ago, was the ghostwriting plugin provided by Aurea/Drive. So that allows us, like Dory, many of our executives post themselves anyway, but there are some, like for example, our CEO, he's not always available to post, and obviously at different time zones, when we have to post sometimes on Eastern, sometimes on London. So having the ghostwriting helps us. Usually what we used to do was something very naughty, which is log in with the username and password of our executives, but now with Pearson we have multi-factor authentication with our single sign-on, so now that's completely not doable anymore. So we had to purchase the ghostwriter plugin, delegate access I think it's called, so we can, on those occasions when they physically they're traveling and they can't do it, then someone else can post on their behalf and it will be authored by them, but actually it's been posted by me.
We don't have that plugin, but we would probably benefit from it. But what we'll do is we'll have either me or our internal communications person go sit with an executive and get the post out in their name with them. But obviously it's not ideal.
Thank you both. That's a very good information. I know that those kind of questions come up a lot of times about executive engagement and how you can kind of facilitate that. All right, another question here. How many custom tiles do you allow? Jive states no more than 2 because of performance issues. So I can actually answer this question. So I believe the default used to be 2 or 3 custom tiles per page. However, with a support case, you could actually request to have up to 5. And just recently, a client of mine actually put in a request to have their max up to 5, and they were told that they can, choose whatever number they want. So they ended up, I think they did 15 or 16 custom tiles to a page, which, is more than you probably need with custom tiles. But I did test that out, and it does work. There aren't any load issues or performance issues that I've experienced. So yeah, with the support case, you can actually have your number bumped up. So just something good to know. And I don't know, Dina or Dory, if you guys have done that yet, or if you have any.
Yeah, we tend to don't any more than 5 because our community, we're 24,000 with like 5,000 community groups and things like that. So we don't tend to allow for any more than 5, just for loading issues, just in case if it's a big community. So when we initially, as you said, we could only have 2, and then we had to open a support case to have them up it to 5.
Yeah, I don't even remember that it was 2. I mean, someone recently told me that. We've had 5 for so long now, because at some point we did open that support case. And then recently someone told me you can have even more now that we're in AWS. So I actually opened the case, and now we can have up to 10. But I don't have any examples like that. I don't really plan to go that high. I just want that option. And there are times where I wish I could have 6. That happens kind of a lot. So now we can. But in all of the use cases I had today, we were always at that 5 limit for those.
Gotcha. Thank you. Another question, this one was for you, Dory. How did you do that with all the icons in the accordion tile? Is that out of the box? So I think that was the example where you had, I don't know, I can pass it back over to you so you can share. me one sec.
Sure.
I think it was the welcome metadata. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, this is just the out-of-the-box Social Edge accordion tile. If you put it in wide, this is what it looks like, and we just used Font Awesome, the options right there inside the tile to do this. So straightforward, out of the box. Someone who knows colors far better than I did made it look nice.
Yeah, I know most people use the accordion tile in narrow columns because it gives you the ability to put in a lot of links and not use up a ton of space. But I really like how it looks in a wide column, like this. I think it's.
And also, Dory, in case somebody else has this question as well, did you say the icons were also in? You could pick them in here, or did you have to add the icons in and get the URL, or add them in as an import?
These are the ones that come from Font Awesome. That is part of the option to choose those as part of the tile.
Perfect.
So
okay.
I'm just pulling it up here. So you just click on this little icon guide and get all the options.
Perfect. Yeah, because we've done this as well, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that you could.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go and download this. You didn't have to go and.
You don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to use static resources, which I find the most annoying thing in the world. Everything is here, and then you just choose it, and you just type in what it was called, which in this case was money, and then it shows up, and it's so easy and so great. I really like that it's part of these.
It makes things much easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's money.
Okay. Any progress on getting the SE tiles to work for Jive Daily? I mean, it's something that we would love to do. We are limited just by the interface of the app. You can use a browser version on either your mobile device or a tablet. A browser version will show the tiles. But yeah, we can't really control, the Jive Daily view itself. Okay, yeah, there was another question about Jive Daily. What version of Jive are you both on?
I'm on AWS 2019.2. We literally migrated to that from 2016.3, which was a massive jump in May 18th.
Yeah, same here.
Got it. Thank you. Do you train your execs? We ghost all the time.
We train where we can. So we have business partners for our executives, and of course our executives have their EAs, and we train our EAs as well. So they are equipped to be able to post blogs, which is predominantly what they're going to be doing anyway. Some executives, much like Dory's, they can do it themselves and they know how to, and some we do have to go Stripe for. So it really is a mixed bag for us.
Yeah, and I don't train the executives specifically, although that's definitely something I would like to start doing. But what I will do is I'll train teams and departments, and the executives are often in that meeting as part of that, but I haven't done specific training just with executives.
Great, thank you both. Do you ever need to do any translating? How do you work with different geographies?
So we used to have a company called Lionbridge, which had an integration into our community. But what we found with Lionbridge was that the translation was coming from Google, and it wasn't great in terms of people who were actually speaking Spanish or speaking French would say to us, "This is nowhere near what it's supposed to say." So we ended up failing fast, and we did a 6-month pilot with Lionbridge, and we then didn't renew it because it was a pilot and we didn't have to, so it didn't work for us. So what we do in terms of translations is we obviously have, I don't know if you guys have it on your Chrome, but on mine, if there's a page in our community that's like a different language, it will come up with a, do you want to translate this? And it will do it. But again, it's Google Translate, so it's not the best thing. But for our really important communications that come from our CEO, like things like the annual report and things like that, they are done by the human translations. So they're done by somebody, and then that's how we do it. But we don't have what we used to, like a program to run it for us.
Yeah, and we haven't had to do any translation. We have offices in Asia, and they'll do their own spaces, and they'll use their languages. They'll use Japanese or Korean or Chinese, but everything that we do, globally is always in English.
Thank you both. A question about gamification. How are you using gamification in your communities?
So we use Budge4. So we use it. We're very light touch at the moment. We used to heavily use it. So things like onboarding, getting to know the community. So doing a certain number of blog posts will get you the blog post badge and some points, and liking a certain number of likes, certain number of follows, you become an influencer, you get a badge for that. So we used to have a lot of that, and we somewhat do. But what we have found since we started doing it is that people love to play the game. And what they start to do is they start to cheat. And what we were finding was people were liking and then, or following and then unfollowing and then following and then unfollowing a certain number of times. So basically figured out the date, they figured out the number, and they were doing that to game the system so they can get more points and get the badges. So that's why we're a little bit more light touch now on the onboarding side of badges. However, we do badge for big initiatives. So just as an example, last week we launched our 2019 Code of Conduct, and we actually gave big points for this. We've given everyone who completes the Code of Conduct on our learning and development platform, then comes back into Neo and posts a comment on a blog post, sharing a piece of learning that they learned from the Code of Conduct this year. They will get 4,000 points and they will get a badge. So what we tend to lean more towards now, rather than the onboarding side of things, is the more kind of global initiatives, badging, and getting a badge for participating in the conference that's coming up for the year and things like that. So we're much more focused badges now and points.
And we switched from Bunchball to Jive Rewards 2 years ago, and we use a lot of quests. I really like the whole quest functionality and getting people to learn and do different behaviors that you want them to do. We don't use as many of them in different spaces, like the featured quest tile, as I would like, because there's a bug with filtering where if I personally am not in the filtered group, I can't see the quest as an option. So I don't tailor it as much as I want or use it as much as I want, although now that I have my intern here with me, she's really excited about it and is going to help me set up a bunch of new quests. People definitely are interested in leveling up and getting to the next level. So, that is always a big discussion among the people that care about it. I keep the leaderboard on the homepage at all times. So it just is a way to encourage people to see who's ahead of them and how things are going that week. Try to use them in groups as well. And there's a lot more we can do. I do a lot of manual badging for different types of activities. So everyone that attended this event, for example, will get a badge and a certain number of points. And I do that a lot too. But I would like to have a much more structured strategy. And I think that if I had a larger team, that's something I would focus a lot more on.
All right. So there's still some questions coming into the chat, and we'll address them. I know that Dina and Dori both said they can stay a couple minutes after. So I guess we'll keep on going. I did just want to thank everyone for joining. 5 minutes left. I'm so glad that there's so much activity. We'd love to host another one of these and have more of just an open conversation, so kind of an online user group. So do stay tuned for another invite coming out from us that we hope you can all attend. Yeah, and again, we can continue the conversation in OreoWorks as well, and we'll share that post with you guys and continue to kind of ask questions and keep the conversation going. But just going through the questions again, when do you use spaces and when do you use groups? It's a good one.
Yeah, so we tend to use spaces more as storefronts. So a space is a place where people come to learn about, for example, a department and what they're doing, and maybe ask them a question and read their blog post. Whereas we use groups more for true collaboration and working together. So I try to push people away from spaces unless it's absolutely necessary. People in their head, for some reason, are really into the idea of spaces over groups, even though it's not that different. But I tend to encourage that whole collaboration aspect a lot more than the storefront, and that's how I try to differentiate them.
We're a little bit different at Pearson. So for spaces, I'm like the space-like police, because before I joined this team 6 years ago, we had 2,500 spaces, and everybody was creating subspace after subspace after subspace. I mean, there was one community that had 100 levels of subspaces, and then I came on board and killed them all, and we only have about 130 now. So what those 130 are is our high-level business, our hierarchy. So anyone who reports into our CEO and then one level down is a space, because it's part of our business hierarchy. And then absolutely anything else, i.e. teams and subject areas and subject matter areas, they're all groups. And we've done it that way so we can keep the number of spaces down, because just like Dory's community, they by some reason love spaces instead of groups, but I actually think groups are much better.
I do too.
Yeah.
And we have the subspace problem also. I wish there was a permission level where someone could admin space but not create a subspace. That would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, I've asked for that, and I haven't got it yet.
That would be a really good admin level.
Oh, yes.
Okay, another question about groups and spaces. How do you measure success for your groups and spaces?
So for us, I think a measure of success is the level of engagement. Now, I'm going to use the advocate community as an example here. When we launched this community 2 years ago, I think it is now. Yeah, in June, it was 2 years ago. We needed this community to help with morale, like many companies go through. We went through a big restructure and we had a lot of layoffs, and it wasn't a very nice time. And what our people that were left behind needed was a bit of a boost. And that's why we built this advocate community. It had a ton of content, a ton of feel-good content, helping people feel proud to work for Pearson. And I think for us, measuring of success of a community depends on the objective of your community. If the objective of a community is just to help make people feel like they have somewhere to go, and you get people commenting and liking and engaging, I think we had, if I remember correctly, we had about 5,000 people actually come together in that community. So not all 5,000 were, of course, contributing content, but there was 5,000 people looking at the content. There was at any time, and that for us was a measure of success. So the measuring of success really boils down to what the objective of your group is. Now, of course, if you have a group that's about reporting and data or like something a little bit more kind of not wishy-washy, I don't want to use that word, but not fun stuff, like the hard stuff, data numbers might be important to you. So you want to know things like how many people came to your community, where did they come from, which country are they coming from, what browser they're using. Those things, they may matter. So it all really depends on what your objective is.
Yeah, I agree. It depends on your objective. For those spaces that I mentioned that do really well, those spaces have a lot of content created, whether it's in professional services, it's blog posts. In customer success, it's often documents. Questions and answers is really important to us in our community. We do a lot of looking at, are these questions being asked and answered, and and just the comments and overall general engagement. For something like that new marketing group, I think for me, my level of success will be, did we reduce the amount of reply alls? So it depends on what's happening there and what the use case is.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It's sometimes both quantitative and qualitative to be able to measure success. Okay, just going through this list. Do you do anything to reward people for getting to the next level, or for example, when they become a sensei or master? If so, how?
So this is where we want to get better, because we don't incentivize the points and the levels that you reach. And this is where we've been talking internally as the global communities team of how we can do that better. So we don't do it right now, but we would love to. So if Dory, you're doing something like that, or anyone else on this call is, and that'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you guys and learn from you as well, because we're not doing it right now and we want to.
Yeah, we're not doing that either, but I love that idea, especially for the higher levels that are really hard to achieve. I think that would be a really great idea to just give something when you achieve these super high levels, and I don't think that'd be hard to do. And people, more than swag, more than anything, people just want gift cards. So I think I think it would be an easy thing to do, especially when they get to those high levels.
Okay, a question about AWS. How's performance on AWS 2019.2?
So when we first upgraded the weekend of May 18th, it all seems to be okay come Sunday afternoon when we got our community back, and everything was okay for a day or two. And then all of a sudden, and I don't know whether it's connected because I still don't really have a straight answer, is whether when we went down, basically our community went down, and we couldn't get back up and for about an hour or two. Luckily, it was a quiet week at Pearson, so not many people were in or logged in. But I don't know whether that's connected to AWS, and it happened a couple of days after upgrade for us. Then it was okay for a couple of days, and then it happened again, but it only happened in our Europe region. The USA was fine, but anyone in Europe, London, Europe, UK, it was not. So very spotty, but since then, we've not had any performance issues. Like I said, no idea whether that's connected because we don't really get told if it's connected or not. But that's what happened for us after the migration.
Yeah, I heard that there's been a lot more problems for European customers. It's been, as far as just is AWS, is our system working? Yes, we haven't had downtime since we went to AWS. Video sometimes goes down, but the system itself has been pretty stable.
Okay, and it looks like we have a hand raised, so I can unmute. It looks like Gian, if you can come off mute if you want to ask your question live, you should be able to now.
Hello, no, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. No questions. Thank you. Thank you.
And I guess I can unmute all attendees. So if anyone else wants to jump on, you should be able to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. If not, we'll wrap it up here. All right. Well, it looks like no additional questions. I'm just checking the chat again. Well, Dina and Dori, thank you both so much for sharing today, for the live demos and for talking about your best practices and answering questions from this community of other interested community managers. We definitely want to keep the conversation going, so we will continue to seed some discussions in the OreaWorks community in our space there. And we'll be in touch about another future session like this, where again we can do some more show and tell and have really just an open conversation for all of you guys, and again, knowledge sharing. So thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks a lot.